third, and in my view, best so far, installment altogether. And I'm happy to see this event picking up momentum. And as we move along, we will see quite a number of things that have evolved, and we will reflect on those in due time. Firstly, allow me please to welcome and introduce His Excellency Mr. Ahmed bin Riyad, Chairman of the Executive Committee for...
والله قال الشيوخ يشجعون اللغة العربية طبعا، ولكن أغلب الناس يفهمون الإنجليزي، فما ندري. الجمع جايز؟ والله يا أخي ما أحب أنا أشياء. لا، نشكركم على الحضور، وأعتقد هذه سلسلة من طبعا ندوات بالتعاون بين كلية الشيخ محمد وبين مشروع المدينة الذكية اللي بدأ تقريبا من سنة تقريبا أو أقل. هذه الندوة الثالثة في السلسلة هذه، والهدف منها هو طبعا أول شيء maybe let me switch into English. This is one of the series of interactions with the industry in Dubai, and this is a collaboration, as a result of a collaboration between Sheikh Mohammed's College, School of Government, and the Dubai Smart City Initiative. The objective for these interactions or workshops is basically to build better understanding between us as a city and our partners within the industry. They could be operators, regulators, or providers of some sort of a product or a service. The understanding, the objective also is raising awareness and building bridges. We understand the industry of the Internet of Things is ever evolving and changing rapidly through time. We also know there were some challenges in the past which we were, as a city, are better positioned to overcome. Things like broadband coverage, for example, is extremely good in the city as well as in the UAE. The problem related to IP addresses and the emergence of IPv6, that opens up also a whole new dimension to being able to connect with many things around the city. What we are sort of anticipating is that the people who produce products talk to each other and come up with something more standard as well to lessen the confusion and improve the adoption of products in cities like Dubai. Dubai does have the willingness, it does have the strategy. It is very eager to manage its resources in a better way. We are evolving, we are growing rapidly. We have a determined leadership to make things happen. However, we want to do it in an efficient way. We want to do it in a productive way. And we want to, through this city management for us, we want to make sure that the people who are living in the city are happy and also productive. Dubai needs to continue to be able to attract people from around the world and to be able to retain these people in the city, and the only way is to do that is to make sure that they operate in an efficient and productive manner. We also, as I said, city management is very important. Therefore, we call on our colleagues in our partners in the city to make sure that they operate as a city rather than, in addition to them operating individually as separate organs of the city in an efficient way, but it's very important for them to also, in addition to that, to operate as a city collectively together for us to be able to ensure that Dubai is in a leading position worldwide as far as city management is concerned. I welcome our guests and I thank you for your attendance ونشكركم جميعا على الحضور ونتطلع إلى صباح ذكي إن شاء الله. شكرا.
Thank you, Mr. Bembiat. Actually, this series has evolved in a very smart way. We have, the first installment was a very general laying the foundation for a smart city forum. We had people from two major partners from the private sector who delivered an excellent presentation and setting the scene activity. Then we moved into big data, which was a few weeks ago, and very fittingly today, we are talking about the Internet of Things. I had actually prepared a small presentation, but then realized that our speaker's CV is a much better thing to talk about. And I'm going to take just the 2 minutes to introduce our speaker to you. Forgive me, Howard, if I may. I do carry a certain weakness because of the engineering connection in the background here, and a few of us engineers here would probably appreciate that. Dr. Howard Charney is Senior Vice President and is member of Cisco's Office of the President and Executive Staff, reporting directly to the CEO, John Chambers. He contributes to Cisco's strategy and direction and advises customers on implementing critical internet technologies to improve productivity and competitiveness. He is the company's executive sponsor for special administrative regions of Hong Kong and Macau. It doesn't show, but over 30 years of experience in Silicon Valley. Dr. Charney has overseen the development and proliferation of technologies that have led directly to the global build-out of the internet. In fact, I was saying to him this morning, and that's why my voice is quite disappeared, that Dr. Charney is with us today from the days of the Internet of Nothing, and today we're talking about the Internet of Everything. And he qualifies in that capacity in various ways. Dr. Charney in 1980 founded or co-founded 3Com. I think we all know 3Com. And 3Com was the progenitor of Ethernet and local area networking. He then had another business, which was the Grand Junction networks, which Cisco acquired, and this is where he has gone. Obviously, I have to warn you that the gentleman is a lawyer as well. He's a licensed lawyer, and he belongs to the state bars of California and the federal bar as well. So today, I think it's very fairly and fitting to say that we have the topic of the Internet of Things being addressed by the expertise of things. So I invite Dr. Howard here to share with us his take in 20 minutes, which do not really scare me because engineers usually keep time very well. And I would like you to please come to the podium, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
There's a... Okay. And this is the, okay. Well, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me this morning. So we're going to talk about the Internet of Things. Sometimes we use the term Internet of Everything. And I expect to engender questions at the end, and I hope that it raises issues that require us to delve more deeply into the subject. Okay, now how, oh, this way. Which one is mine? Top one. Okay. Okay, good. So let's start this morning with the big picture. And basically, if you operate in an industry, and that industry could be government, or it could be manufacturing, or it could be retail, or it could be finance, you are not immune from what is about to happen and is already happening. And I talk to people all over the world, and some of them think that their businesses won't change. Education is one of those industries that is resistant to change, because education, frequently universities argue to me that we have done what we do today, and we've been doing it this way since the 15th century. Why should we change? Well, there's a reason you should change. There's a reason you should change because you can reach more people. And that best professor in the world who teaches calculus or inorganic chemistry should not be standing in front of 40 people. That person should be standing in front of 4,000 people. Your industry is going to change, and government is going to change, and retail is going to change, and energy is going to change. And it's all going to change because of this proliferation of technology we call the Internet of Everything, or the Internet of Things. Now, there's some major mega trends that are apparent for this urban century. Now, one of them is the Internet of Things, and I'm going to delve into that more deeply, and so we'll just hold that one aside for the moment. But there's also global urbanization that's going on. More than 50% of the world now lives in cities, which is, I don't know if that's a good thing or it's a bad thing, but it's a true statement. Of that 50%, it comprises about 2 to 3% of the land mass of the planet, but it comprises, or it consumes, 70% of the resources of the world, and it also produces 70% of all the pollutants. So urbanization is a good thing, you could argue, but it's also not such a good thing. And so we have to be able to deal with this massive urbanization that is occurring globally. And it's not just Dubai, it's also Bangalore, and it's also New York, and it's also Chicago. It's global. What's also interesting is a change in digital access, which affects our policies. And I found one statistic pretty interesting, that by 2020, so we all carry these devices with us in one form or another. But one of my colleagues said that by 2020, these devices will operate at 26 megahertz. That's basically a mechanism for determining the computing power. They will have 500 megahertz of bandwidth capability. 500 megahertz by 2020. Did you hear that? 500 megahertz. I heard it. That's a lot of bandwidth, a lot. And that is transformative. So for people who believe that this is just something that's going to be here today and it's gone tomorrow, that would be wrong. It's here to stay. And so there's this major digital access that's occurring, and it's going to change our planet. Now, basically, the network has been in the center of most revolutions that have occurred since the early 1990s. I'm old enough to remember bridging becoming routing and circuits becoming packets, etc. And now we're basically in this period where we're moving from connecting the unconnected to the Internet of Everything. And we believe that 99% of everything which can be connected is yet to be connected. That's a lot. That means basically we haven't even scratched the surface yet. Now, sometimes people ask me, well, is that the end of the story? Does the story end with connecting everything? No, the story does not end with connecting everything. The next level is something we call ACI, or application-centric infrastructure, which means that the infrastructure becomes very, very smart. Today, infrastructure is smart, but you haven't seen anything yet. Tomorrow, the infrastructure will automatically know who you are and what you should be able to have access to and where you're located and what services might be appropriate for you. But that's a story for another day. Today, we're just talking about connecting the unconnected, which is in itself a big job. And so what is the Internet of Everything? Well, the Internet of Everything is connecting people to people, but that's what these devices do. They connect people to people. But the Internet of Everything is also about connecting people to machines, machines to other machines, and then connecting it all together with processes. And it is the processes that lead to some amazing results. And I'm going to talk about some of those amazing results as we go forward. So what are the value of smart cities? Well, our calculations indicate that on a global basis, we're speaking about $19 trillion of value at stake. Now, sometimes we use the term profits, and sometimes we use the term revenue, and sometimes we use the terms gross margin. Well, value at stake, bless you, value at stake actually means that dollars or dirhams are changing hands. It doesn't necessarily mean profits, but it could mean profits. It means that because of the change in our behavior, some business is going to get, as we say, get gored. Some business is going to be harmed, but some other business is going to flourish. And we calculate that the Internet of Everything for cities, both the public and the private sector, comprises a $19 trillion shift in value. That is a lot of money. Thus, we are interested. It's a very persuasive amount. Now, in particular, for Dubai, our calculations, and my colleague is going to speak about this after I completed this little talk, but we calculate for Dubai about 4.3 billion dirhams are at stake. 4.3 billion if you do this properly. In other words, that's a sort of a sizing of how much money will change hands over the next, say, 5 to 10 years because of the implementation of these technologies. And that is just in the public sector. In the enterprise, we believe the number is much larger. But since most of you have to do with the public sector, it's still a very, very large number. 4.3 billion dirhams. So we get insights from data. Now, we collect a lot of data around the world, and most data is a string of ones and zeros, actually a fairly stupid string of ones and zeros. It doesn't tell us very much. We just collect data. But every now and then, data becomes information, and then even more rarely, every now and then, information becomes knowledge, and every so often, knowledge becomes wisdom. And that's very rare. And the definition of wisdom is information which changes your behavior permanently. It's something which makes you smarter. It makes you behave differently. And so the business benefit as you go from just strings of ones and zeros to wisdom is very great. And how do we do that? We do that with mathematics. We do that with heuristics. We do that with big data. And we do that using analytics to understand what is the information telling us and how can we use it more profitably. It's that simple, although it's not simple at all. It's actually very complex. So people say to me, tell me something. You collect all this data. Of what use is it? Every now and then, something wonderful comes out of the data. And this woman on the right, her name is Carolyn McGregor. And she's a computer scientist at the University of Toronto. And she discovered something that's amazing. In fact, I was just speaking with a gentleman who runs the health services in Dubai. So what did Carolyn McGregor discover? Carolyn McGregor discovered, by looking at the data that was collected in premature infant wards. And it turns out that nurses collect and doctors collect lots of information in premature infant wards. They collect information on blood oxygenation levels. They collect data on blood pressure, temperature, all this information on these premature infants. And what happens to the data? Nothing, most of the time. However, she discovered something very interesting. She discovered that the heart rate of a healthy infant shows a certain predictable statistical irregularity. A certain statistical irregularity. But when that infant is going to become ill, the heart rate becomes uncannily regular. So wouldn't it be amazing if you could administer antibiotics to an infant who is not sick 24 hours before that infant became ill? We're not talking about something academic now. We're talking about saving a child's life. So when people say, you collect a lot of data, well, what good is all the data you collect? Every now and then, it's worth a child's life. Here's another one that's kind of interesting. So it turns out that the largest university in the United States is Arizona State University, which I visited several times. Arizona State University has about 55,000 students. It's huge. Arizona State University collects information on the behavior of their students. And you might say, well, what do they do with this data? So it turns out that the information is used very intelligently. So all the students have badges, right? Badges. And they go into the library, and they know when the student goes into the library. They know when the student goes into the cafeteria. They even know what food the student purchases. They know when the student goes to the health services. They know when the student is in the athletic center. And they also, of course, know what the student's grades are. And it turns out that Arizona State University measures and charts everything. And so here's some interesting results. They use dashboards to understand everything about student study patterns and faculty research projects. And over the period between 2012 and 2013, Arizona State Online grew 36%. Now, Arizona State Online is a 100% online program. This is not classrooms, this is students learning online. And when I visited them in 2010, they had about 4,000 students online. This is a fully accredited program. By 2013, they had over 12,000 students online, and their goal is to get to 100,000 students online. Also, during this period, they have used predictive analytics to improve freshman retention rates by almost 7%. So you have to understand something. Arizona State University is what we call a university of access. So what does it mean to be a university of access? It means they cannot deny you to be accepted. They have to let you go. But just because they have to let you go doesn't mean that you're going to succeed. You may fail. So if you can improve freshman retention rates by 7%, that is huge. Absolutely huge. And it means that the people who really need to be there the most, the indigenous peoples from Arizona, these people get to stay in school, and these people get to graduate with degrees. So if you ask me, what is the virtue of collecting all this data, I say, maybe somebody gets to graduate from college who wouldn't ordinarily graduate from college and would have been washed out. And that's a big deal. So what's it going to take to be successful? We live in a world that is replete with complexity. And what is complexity? Complexity is all of your individual departments have data, and you don't share that data with the other departments. That's not good. So if you want a business license, the data that you would supply for that business license is probably the same information that the health department needs, and it's probably the same information that the police need, except that you don't share that information. So our research indicates that if you're going to actually become a smart and connected community, a smart city, you have to share that information. It's just not negotiable. Now I know that there are security concerns. Everybody's data is more important than everybody else's data, and the police are especially attached to their information. Always. It's always the case. Having said that, though, it turns out that there's ways to keep data secure. So there are technology challenges, and one of them is complexity. Another is the mathematics of unlocking the intelligence, and the third one is security. You won't convince anybody to share their information if the information is not going to be shared securely. It's just that simple. But we have the technology to do that. It's just that we have to convince you that it'll work for you. And so we've coined a term for this. We call it fast IT. And what is fast IT? Well, I won't drag you through the details, but it's basically infrastructure at the bottom. And what's infrastructure? Well, it's all those wired and wireless connections. It's all those routers and switches. It's all those access points. It's all that technology at the bottom. There are applications at the top. Healthcare applications, security applications, immigration applications, and what's in the middle? All of this software. Lots and lots of software that nobody ever sees, except it's the software that does all the work. And it's all connected together with lots and lots of services in order to make it work. And so there's a new model for cities of the future. And what does that model comprise? Well, it comprises one thing, which is visionary leadership. The fact that you're here today shows to some extent that you comprise visionary leadership, because if you weren't here, that would mean you wouldn't care. But you do care. It comprises global and open standards. You cannot do this by rolling your own standards. It includes smart regulation and public and private partnerships. I was in I gave a talk in Chile, and when I was in Chile, there was a professor who said it's not just about public and private partnerships, it's also about universities. Universities are interesting because they have so many smart people who are at these universities, and so really we should be speaking about public and private partnerships, and we should be folding universities in that as well. And you know what? He was right. And it involves the creation of new ecosystems in order to pull this off. Otherwise, it's just not going to be possible. Now, let me use one example here, which is kind of interesting because this place is amazing. I've been there. I've also been there many times. So Copenhagen also has this objective to become a smart city and a smart and connected community. And just very recently, they implemented a laboratory to test outdoor lighting solutions. And they implemented 30 different outdoor lighting solutions to determine which one would work best. Now, I think that was pretty smart because they didn't really know which was the best solution, but they're going to try all 30 and they're going to see how they work, which is interesting. But the bigger interesting part about the city of Copenhagen is that from time to time, the city of Copenhagen floods. And this is very catastrophic. And so when the tides are high, when Mother Nature creates all these storms in the North Sea, when the moon is close, the city of Copenhagen will flood as well as these surrounding areas. And so what they have done is they have created a multi-decade project. This is not a pilot. This is for the long term. They've created this program to eliminate flooding in the city of Copenhagen, which is a very big deal. A very big deal. It's as big a deal as making Dubai a smart city. And it's going to take them at least 20 years to do this. But the upside is amazing. And the upside is big. So, to conclude, what is a smart city? It's all these things. And you don't have to pay a high-priced consultant to tell you, I have the answer to what a smart city is. It's these things. It's improved citizen access. It's city lighting. It's digital signage. It's tourism information, safety and security, parking optimization, public transport, pollution and environmental monitoring, waste management, and traffic management. It's those things. It's not magic. It's not some kind of a cloud notion that's not clear and we need a soothsayer to tell us what the answer is. It's not that at all. It's these things. Do these things, and all of a sudden Dubai becomes a smart city. It's that simple. And so let me just leave you with a Chinese proverb, because it's in line with the city of Copenhagen and their undertaking for decades of change to stop flooding. It will be that one generation will plant the trees, but another one will get the shade. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you very much for a truly amazing presentation on a Sunday morning.
It is Sunday morning, isn't it?
It is. For us, it's like your Monday.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Concerns, but they affect us on Sunday. The things that affect you on a Monday affect us on a Sunday, actually. So, actually, I'd like to comment very briefly on what you've said. There is a lot, actually. I could take all the question, answer time, everything to follow, but I won't do that. I want to give everybody the chance. And I want to say this. We are as privileged and as delighted we are that you are with us today. And as I cannot really pinpoint which is the trait or the skill that you've used to hypnotize us here in this presentation, you're looking at the leadership here in Dubai, which is actually creating the vision and which is leading us across all the indices and the achievements that we are very proud of today. This is the team. Many of them are the team that has actually delivered Dubai that you see and the Dubai that we are proud of. And we thank them all, of course, for being here and for, making us proud all the time. I want to quickly go back to a couple of things, and then I would like to open the floor, of course, to everybody. You've touched on a couple of very interesting things, this big data, what we do with this big data. And this is really very important. It's just the way you manipulate and you utilize this to arrive at your end. You need to know what your roadmap is. And we've been very fortunate to navigate with you today. And as I said, I'd like to use my privilege to ask a quick question, but I want to just say a couple of things quickly. Visa, for example, apparently Visa, the credit cards we use, they collect enough data and they have enough information on big data to correctly predict 70% of the total divorce rates if they wanted to. I suggest you switch to MasterCard, but that's another story. Now, the difference between knowledge and wisdom, this is a very important issue, and you've put that on that pyramid. And it's always difficult to try and really, look at the wisdom and, knowledge and wisdom. And I think the best way, which is something I've read recently, and I thought I would share this with you before I ask my question and disappear from this podium, is knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not using it in a fruit salad. And I think this is very important to understand the difference and what you do with that knowledge and where not to apply that knowledge if you have it. Now, a quick question, and I will leave. As we know that Dr. Charney here has seen it all from the pre-internet days, and now we are looking at the post-internet of things days. We're talking the internet of everything. I would like him to actually reflect with us today from his experience and the things that he has logarithmically learned with his years, where he sees this going, and what is our future as humans going to look like in the years to come. And then I'll open the floor to you, Dr. Charney.
Well, that's a very open-ended question, Doctor. Oh, I have this. We are about to collect amazing amounts of information, and the information collection is going to become exponential, not linear. And so the question is, what are we going to do with that information? And in two ways, I believe life is going to become much better on our planet. One way is we are going to transform education, because education as it is currently implemented does not scale. It is very linear in the way that it behaves. But education of tomorrow will use different techniques, and education of tomorrow will be able to reach out so Dubai could become the center of medical or financial or education, and send that education to all over the GCC. And that's something that's very different than exists today. So what I believe is going to happen is education is going to change materially. Another thing that's going to change greatly is medicine. Medicine also doesn't scale. The medicine which is delivered via a doctor or a medical professional and a patient does not scale. It is one-to-one. But the technology and the technological basis will allow us to behave in a way which becomes one-to-many. And one-to-many will allow education and medical care to be delivered globally. So if you live in Dubai, you get great medical care. Or if you live in Nairobi, you get great medical care. But you do not get great medical care if you live in rural areas all around the world, rural areas of Africa, or rural areas in many places, even in the United States. And so what I think is going to happen is that the collection of all this information and the building of this platform is going to materially change our lives. And the last thing is access to citizen services. Government delivers services to people, although it doesn't scale either. And we have to figure out ways, and the platform will allow us ways to have the government scale in its services globally. I visited a hospital in Buenos Aires, and it was a pediatric hospital. And it's not exactly government, but it is government because the hospital was a public facility. It's the only pediatric hospital in the country, in Argentina. And so we created this video session between Buenos Aires and the city 1,000 kilometers away. And that video session was between doctors and a sick little boy. And so governmental services, whether they be medical or whether they be Social Security or whether they be whatever, will also change. And so I believe we are on the threshold of life changing greatly from the life that we know today. Does that answer your question?
Gentlemen, تفضل.
Thank you, Doctor, for being part of this nice initiative in here. And I would like to comment and stress on one thing you've mentioned, and then I'm going to give you my question. I want you to stress again and again and again and again in data sharing, especially between government departments. And you hit the nail when you said that a business license information required by health department and required by Dubai Police Department. Now, if I am a government department, basically, I've got enough security, maybe, I've got enough security that I can share with you and vice versa. So if there is no platform security, then we will invite those experts to give us some more security, to have those data shared easily and seamlessly. Now, my question to you is, not to you only, this is for almost all technological companies. We talk very positively, and don't take me wrong in here. My mom is 65 years old, and she has iPhone and she has iPad. So I love electronics, I love smart things, I love them those. But there's one question that I've been always asking myself, and I did not speak it out. So I'm going to air it out, not you. The question is there any plan B should a sun flare happens and hits the sun? Now, we know that in 2010, the whole Earth magnetic field was suffering from 2 days of bombarding with the flare. Now, should that magnetic field fail, is there any plan B that all the government departments now put things on data and suddenly the whole data wipes out? Is there anything that the world is doing in this sense? Thank you.
Even though it's after, please. Sorry? Introduce yourself. Please.
My name is Mohammed. I'm the CEO of Business Registration and Licensing.
Now I understand about business registration and licensing. And I didn't even know when I said that I was speaking to the person in charge of business licensing. Well, so it's difficult for me to speak for the world. I'm not in the UN. I'm not a commissioner for the United Nations. But I'll tell you that the problem that you asked about, which is basically the global destruction of networking, basically, is a function of electromagnetic interference. So for those of you who understand what I'm talking about, I don't know how to make this any simpler, really, but what happens is the sun has events, and those events create electromagnetic discharges, and those electromagnetic discharges have a devastating effect upon radio. It's that simple. And they have a devastating effect, depending upon their magnitude, upon satellite communications. The plan B is fiber, because fiber has absolutely no electromagnetic characteristics to it at all. It is 100% light. And so Maxwell's equations don't apply to light. And so the answer to your question is basically we need, and incidentally it has no bandwidth limitations whatsoever. So basically we need to move off or have a plan B, which is not radio-based and it's not electromagnetic-based, it's something else. And the something else is photons. It's that simple. You have to have fiber. That's it.
I warned you he was an engineer. Now you heard this. Okay. One more question, please, so we can move to the latter part, and hopefully there will be a chance to have a lot more casual and very pleasant and much more pleasant interaction with Dr. Howard than a Q&A session. Would anybody like to ask another question, please? تفضل. عرف عن نفسك لو سمحت.
Khalifa Shamsi, Ittisalat. So, I mean, listening to this discussion and presentation, and as a proud citizen of this great nation, blessed with visionary leadership, I know for sure that we will execute on the smart city initiative and the smart city execution of the city. But this is not what we're really here about. This is not the mandate we've been given, and this is not what these great leadership and executor entrepreneurs that they want to do. They want to take that smart city initiative to make out of Dubai, out of the UAE, is a worldwide example. I mean, and now if we look at the globally in technology, where are we from the Internet of Things? Where are we from the big data initiative? It's still it's an infancy place. I mean, it's not yet started. I mean, the whole great thing yet to happen. So guide us through looking at the different cities of the world. We don't want to copy their implementation, but we want to be leading in that. Where do you see the lack of the other city that did not accelerate fast enough? It did not take in some of the important implementation of these cities. Where should we be focused on moving forward?
So it's difficult for me to criticize other places in the world for tripping, for stumbling, and not implementing well. That's not something that I should do. And it's not something I should do when this forum is sent over the internet. It's a bad thing. But there are places in the world that have done just the opposite, who are paragons, they're models of what you should do. And they have implemented and they have a will to be absolutely excellent in a global sense. And one of them is Copenhagen. If I were you, I would spend a lot of time with the city fathers of Copenhagen and see what they're trying to do. Now, incidentally, the entire country of Denmark only has 5.3 million people. And so, but it's not that much different, not that much bigger, I mean smaller than the UAE. And you should try to see what kinds of priorities they have set between their departments and how they are sharing information and how they are implementing projects that cover the entire city and multiple cities, actually regional areas of Denmark. And so I guess that is what stands out to me as something which you would want to emulate. It's interesting, your question, because it basically says we are global. We are not Dubai. We are global. And the standard of our performance must be global. It's not, the standard of our performance is not even GCC. It is what is the best places what are they doing in the most innovative places on our planet? And perhaps we should have a conversation about that, because we can tell you who those places are, and we can also tell you which of the places maybe you don't want to emulate, which have tried, but they kept the data close to the vest, and the departments didn't share the information they needed to share, and so efficiencies were not obtained. I don't know if I exactly answered your question, but I tried.
Thank you. I think you have actually. I have to share this with you. Our set goal is not to be a smart city, by the way. It's to be the smartest city in the world.
In the world.
There is a deadline with that as well. So you can realize
Isn't it
the
2018?
Well, I'm not going to commit to that, actually. I'll leave that.
I thought it was 2018, according to Sheikh Mohammed.
There are more qualified people to answer this. 17?
2017.
See?
Then you do need our help.
We should have taken the 18. We should have taken 18, ya Jama'ah. Khanna 18, yani. We had a year extra. Okay, never mind. Anyways, I want to thank you, and I'll ask you to please stay. I would like to take the opportunity now to invite Mr. Shukri Eid from Cisco. I believe Cisco have an interesting report that we could all find interesting. It talks about what does the Internet of Things mean for Dubai. What does it entail? If I'm correct, correct me. Tfadal.
Shall I use this mic? Can everyone hear me?
Or do you want this one?
No, that's fine, if people can hear me. Okay, very good. So, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to share the report with you. My name is Rashid. I lead Cisco Consulting Services in the Emerging Markets Theater, which is Middle East, Africa, Russia, and the CIS. Over the coming 10 minutes, I'm going to take you through glimpses, just the highlights of a study that we have conducted jointly with the Executive Office around the value at stake, what we call the value at stake. So what could be the true value of the Internet of Everything, specifically for the city of Dubai? You've seen those numbers that Howard has shared with you. So we had a global study, but our study focused on public sector specific use cases. So this is only on public sector. And out of those conservative use cases, we found out that over the coming 5 years, we can generate 4.3 billion dirhams out of public sector use cases value. And this is a very conservative estimate, not only because it only relies on a limited number of specific use cases, around 17 of them, where in reality we think that there will be tens, if not hundreds, of those use cases over the coming few years. But it's also because we've assumed a 60% adoption rate of most of those use cases. And when you talk about a city like Dubai with such an effective governance, we expect that rate of adoption is going to be much, much higher. And I think a point in, a data point here we have here is that we have so many executives from government departments sitting together around the table, and I think that's going to increase the adoption rate. But not only is the true potential in the public sector going to be really multiplied by adopting more and more use cases, because you make the same investment, and once you use it for more use cases, the return on that investment will become much higher. But the true potential is the spillover of that value, not only from the public sector, but into the private sector, where a simple calculation shows us that on the private sector point of view, we get closer to $14 billion out of those same very conservative 17 use cases. So we're not really pushing the envelope that much when we say that the true value at stake for the city of Dubai is going to be in the tens of billions of dirhams over the coming 5 years. But let's take a look at how that value is really distributed. So in our report, we used those 17 use cases, and we give a description of every use case and how the IOE can really be a game changer into that particular use case, whether it's in transportation and health and anything else. And then what is the cost associated with the investment that we need to make to be able to capture that value. And therefore, we get 4.3 of net value after that investment. The report also tries to logically group a number of those use cases, and we got those 4 groupings. So you can see that by far, almost half of that value at stake in the public sector is going to come from public sector productivity specifically, which is how do we use the government assets and increase the productivity of the public servants. That alone is going to get us around 1.9 billion dirhams over the coming 5 years. The second area, probably not surprisingly, was transportation, where we as a government in Dubai, we are putting a lot of investment in the transportation sector. But because the transportation sector is really going to impact how the city really looks and behave and function, and it's going to influence the experience of those people that live in the city, whether citizens, residents, or tourists. The third area, which is another area that Dubai tries to push the envelope quite aggressively in, is how effectively can we manage our city, all our city assets, either the power or utility or transportation or health or other government services. And the last area, last group, which is not insignificant, it was close to 1 billion dirhams over the coming 5 years, was more distributed on use cases related to health, education, smart payment, and electricity transition grid. Another way of looking at the services is how does Dubai compare to other places around the world? Because we have conducted similar studies in other cities, whether it's Nice, Barcelona, or some other country level as well. And I think it's not surprising that we see some value at stake coming quite heavily from areas, like I said, in parking and transportation, maybe because people spend a lot of time looking for a parking, for example, just to simplify the story, but also public sector productivity and utilities. But there was something interesting happen, which is we also saw lower than expected value at stake or we expect to come from Dubai compared to other cities. But that's not really bad news. It's primarily because of things like we are a young population, so the value of automating health services is going to be slightly lower if it was an aging population with chronic diseases that needs to be managed. It was in areas where we know that we have, thank God, one of the lowest crime rates anywhere on earth, which means some of our use cases in safety and security is going to still bring incremental value, but not as less safe societies. And similarly, how young our infrastructure, our basic infrastructures, and the low employment rates. So we could compare that, and the report compares this to other cities, and we saw those differentiations. This is just the unique characteristics of the city of Dubai. A third way of looking at the use cases that we have used has to do with Dubai's priorities over life, economy, and tourism. And you can see that many of the use cases, the value that they bring are not really mutually exclusive and neatly categorized within one area. There is a lot of overlap. When you go and implement a use case, did I touch the economy? Did I then go and influence people's life? Or did I also empower tourism sector? So you'll see there's a lot of overlap. And this is really where the true value is something we cannot really imagine today, simply because once you share that data, other use cases that you didn't imagine are going to start emerging. So people will be smart in using that data and that capabilities in a way you didn't think was possible before. Another interesting fact that the report captures is how are we going to approach those use cases to be able to capture that value? We found that only 44% of that value can be captured at one department at a time. So those are what we call agency-specific use cases, whether it's in utilities or is it transportation, or is it safety and security, or is it health. Majority of the value, 56% of that value, namely of those 17 use cases, can only be approached cross-departmentally. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more. It can only be seen as an investment, as value across all government organizations, not agency by agency specific. Which brings me to the topic that we also try to comment on the report. Finding the value at stake as a number and finding its distribution of which use cases and in which domain is one thing. Then we try also to comment on what would increase Dubai's chances of capturing that value at stake of those use cases and maximizing the value at stake out of an initiative like this. This is very close to Dubai's heart. First of all, it's the leadership. The leadership that is going to translate an IOE global story into a very local Dubai-specific IOE story. That's our story in Dubai. That's our city. This is what we see IOE. This is the IOE story for the city of Dubai, not only the global story. And I think the IOE brings an interesting framework and glossary terms that we can start embed in our government strategy that starts bringing all those departments together. I think the other area is governance. IOE, one of the things that is interesting about it, both positively and negatively, is that an investment made in a certain area is going to have spillover of values in so many areas. But this also provides a governance challenge, because a department by department investment, that use case, when looked at by a single department, might not justify the investment, simply because the investment is centralized and the value is dispersed, the value is distributed. So a limited view of an ROI saying this department is going to spend that money, if you look at the value of only that department, we won't be able to move in that. So there should be a central government, cross-government layer of governance that uses the strong tool of centralized will and budget to go and follow what makes sense for the whole of the city, not only a department by department view. A third area is also our competence. How do we look at our success and how do we measure it? Previously, when we wanted to measure that a call center is going to respond to a call within those few minutes, that's a very specific KPI that you can give it to a department and even break down to individual. But when the vision of the city is making people happier, which KPI am I trying to measure, and who's responsible for it? Which department is responsible for the happiness of the people and the city? So I think what we call for is that this data starts being used in a citywide dashboard, both at the strategic level and operational level, with a completely new mindset of what is it that we are trying to measure and how do we measure it. The data is not going to come from a single department, and the view cannot be a single department view. And finally, on technology, we all are saying Dubai Smart City is definitely subscribing to the vision that technology-enabled transformation is what's going to make us the smartest city in the world. And I think this calls for being able to create a model where IT or data capabilities in one department can be easily shared by the other so we don't go and replicate work. How do I create this fog environment where when immigration creates a certain capability and a certain data set, I can readily, from a health point of view, go and capture that without having to replicate this. And this also entails that from us, your technology vendors, the way you look at us, the role that we play needs to be different, not only building a data center or network, but subscribing and make us accountable to specific business outcomes that fit into your IOE language for the city of Dubai. Finally, I think to close, Dubai has a great vision and sees itself with great responsibility to go the route of sustainable development, whether in economic, social, and environment. To be able to do this, we need to learn how do we create capabilities across all those pillars and how that data is going to flow from one pillar into the other. Because at the higher level, economic, social, and environment, those pillars are not different. They are all one at the people happiness level, at the city management level, and so on. So how can we create a platform where data and capabilities will start flowing across these pillars? And once you create something somewhere, you can use it elsewhere. We believe that the platform that we hope can enable Dubai to do that is going to be this platform we call the Internet of Everything, the Internet of Things, the Internet of Everything. And then it's only our imagination, in reality, is the limitation of the true value at stake for IOE in Dubai. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Aid. I appreciate this. Very quick wrap-up, gentlemen, I would say. In the school, in Mohammed bin Rashid School of Government, we really have a very important mission that we would like to serve you all, to serve you in our best capacity. We don't want to do information management anymore. We want to do knowledge exchange forums. We want to create the platform for all of the expertise, all the knowledge that evolves and is created in all the departments. We want to reach a level of co-opetition between all of us here that furthers our journey and that enables us to move faster and forward. We welcome you all. My name is Basim Yunus. I'm the Director of Strategic Alliances in the school, but we all of us here welcome you all to come to us with your ideas, with your desires. If you want us to look at something with you, to use us, please. Use this vehicle that is provided for you to really allow us to assist and to serve our role in this community and in this city. We're here for you, and we want to help. We admire what you do. We want to contribute to this, and we want to play a role in it, which I believe we really can. Finally, I want to thank, obviously, I want to leave one thing before I go. We haven't asked you if you have a question for us. Everybody asked you a question, but you did not ask us a question.
Are you going to make it? Are you going to succeed?
I love these questions when somebody else can answer, and I'm going to point you on that side of the room,
and
I ask you to.
Are you going to succeed? You have the will. You have the money. You have the will and the money.
We make the money.
And you know what the plan is, right? And you have the leadership.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We
have a leadership that more than compensates for any other deficiency, Howard.
Then you might win. You just might win.
No might.
No might.
No.
Oh, look, it's always a crapshoot.
We will.
It's always a crapshoot.
We'll see you here in 2017, and you'll be part of the party, I hope.
Okay.
I think. We'll welcome you here. Sorry, I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will. Anyways, really thank you all again for being with us. And we look forward to this. But before I close, actually, I have one housekeeping order. What's next? This is the third, and it's not a Mexican or a Turkish series, but it's a very intellectual series. And we'd like to tell you what's next. Next is smart city service enablement. This is a big topic. It's the big foundation for the enablement layer, which is digital ID, digital payment, digital security, etc. You will be notified. We look forward to your continued participation, to your enjoying the journey with us here until we meet Dr. Howard Charney in 2017, and we prove to him that what we answered was the correct answer. Thank you all for being here today, and have a good week ahead of you. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I really, but I hope you come to us without your keepers. Please.
I have keepers. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. We will see you next year in the event, right?
I hope so.
The IoT event.
I hope so. It seems very far away, but I know it's very close. Oh, yes. To everyone.